The year is 1495. In the bustling city of Milan, a defining moment in art history unfolds within the walls of the Santa Maria del Grazie monastery. A 43-year-old man balances precariously on a makeshift scaffold, his brush dancing across the damp wall with precise, deliberate strokes. Below, Dominican monks watch in reverent silence as the Last Supper, destined to become one of history's greatest masterpieces, takes shape before their eyes. This man is Leonardo da Vinci, and the scene captures just one facet of his extraordinary genius. In the candlelit secrecy of his workshop, this same artist performs forbidden anatomical dissections, meticulously documenting every sinew and vessel of the human body. By day, he sketches revolutionary designs for flying machines that would not become reality for centuries. At night, he dreams of underwater vessels, anticipating submarines hundreds of years before their time. Now, 5 centuries later, his legacy continues to captivate and inspire. Scientists pore over his notebooks, marveling at anatomical observations that were centuries ahead of their time. Engineers study his mechanical designs with amazement, finding principles that would not be fully understood until the modern era. Millions of visitors queue for hours at the Louvre, hoping for a glimpse of his most famous work, the enigmatic Mona Lisa. How did this illegitimate son of a Florentine notary become the epitome of Renaissance genius? The answer lies in his unquenchable curiosity, his remarkable ability to observe the world with both an artist's eye and a scientist's mind, and his unique talent for seeing connections where others saw only divisions. In our current age of artificial intelligence and technological revolution, Leonardo's approach to learning and innovation remains remarkably relevant. His integration of art and science, his emphasis on careful observation, and his ability to think across disciplines offer valuable lessons for addressing today's complex challenges. If you've been fascinated by this journey through time, please join our Modern Age Chronicles community. Subscribe to our channel for more compelling stories about history's greatest innovators and visionaries. Like this video to help us share Leonardo's inspiring legacy with viewers worldwide. Together, let's explore how the past continues to shape our future. Remember, as Leonardo himself wrote, learning never exhausts the mind. A portrait of genius emerges from the rolling hills of Tuscany. Born on April 15, 1452, in the small town of Vinci, Leonardo entered the world as the illegitimate child of Ser Piero da Vinci, a respected notary, and Caterina, a young peasant woman. This unconventional beginning would shape his unique perspective on life and learning. Young Leonardo's early years were split between two contrasting worlds. In his father's affluent household, he gained exposure to the refined culture of the Florentine elite, learning to read and write, and absorbing the sophisticated atmosphere of Renaissance society. Meanwhile, in his mother's rural environment, he developed an intimate connection with nature, spending countless hours observing plants, animals, and the flow of streams, observations that would later influence his scientific studies and artistic works. From his earliest days, Leonardo displayed an almost supernatural ability to observe and record the world around him. His childhood was marked by an insatiable curiosity that would become his defining characteristic. He would ask endless questions about everything he encountered. Why do birds fly? How do flowers grow? What lies beneath the surface of water? This perpetual questioning often exhausted those around him, but it was this very trait that would later fuel his greatest discoveries. His extraordinary talent for drawing manifested itself at an astonishingly young age. While other children played with toys, young Leonardo filled countless pages with sketches of animals, plants, and mechanical devices that captured his imagination. His father, recognizing this exceptional gift, kept a supply of paper constantly available, an expensive commodity in the 15th century. At the age of 14, a pivotal moment arrived in Leonardo's life. His father secured him an apprenticeship in the prestigious workshop of Andrea del Verrocchio, Florence's leading artist and craftsman. This workshop was more than just an artist's studio. It was a comprehensive creative laboratory where apprentices learned everything from painting and sculpture to metalwork and engineering. In Verrocchio's bottega, Leonardo's talents flourished beyond all expectations. There is a famous story that when Leonardo painted an angel in Verrocchio's Baptism of Christ, his work was so superior to his master's that Verrocchio vowed never to paint again. Whether true or apocryphal, this tale reflects Leonardo's rapid mastery of his craft. Yet even as an apprentice, Leonardo showed signs of the revolutionary thinker he would become. He wasn't content merely to follow the traditional methods of painting and sculpture. Instead, he began experimenting with new techniques, studying the properties of different pigments, and investigating the mathematics of perspective. What set young Leonardo apart was not just his technical skill, but his holistic approach to understanding the world. When tasked with painting a flower, he wouldn't simply reproduce its appearance. He would study its structure, dissect its parts, understand its growth patterns, and only then begin to paint. This comprehensive approach would become his trademark methodology, applying it to everything from human anatomy to mechanical engineering. By the time he completed his apprenticeship, Leonardo had already begun to show signs of the polymath he would become. His notebooks from this period reveal not just artistic studies, but detailed observations of natural phenomena, mechanical inventions, and anatomical sketches. The young artist was already evolving into something far more, a universal genius whose work would transcend the boundaries of art and science. The story of young Leonardo reminds us that genius often emerges from unexpected circumstances. His illegitimate birth, rather than being a disadvantage, may have given him the freedom to move between different social worlds and develop his unique perspective. His early years laid the foundation for a mind that would change our understanding of art, science, and human potential. Leonardo da Vinci embodied the true definition of a Renaissance polymath, yet his brilliant mind often worked against itself in fascinating ways. His personality was a complex tapestry of contradictions that both fueled his genius and sometimes hindered his productivity. Perhaps Leonardo's greatest internal battle raged between his relentless perfectionism and his scattered curiosity. His mind constantly jumped between interests, each new discovery leading to another fascinating tangent. While working on a painting, he might suddenly become absorbed in studying the way light reflected off a subject's hair, leading to weeks of scientific investigation into optics and the nature of light itself. This perfectionism was legendary. He would often work on a single detail of a painting for days, making microscopic adjustments that only he could perceive. The Mona Lisa, for instance, remained in his possession for over 15 years as he continuously refined it, never quite satisfied with his work. His pursuit of perfection was so intense that he once said, "Art is never finished, only abandoned." The list of Leonardo's incomplete works is almost as impressive as his finished ones. The Adoration of the Magi, Saint Jerome in the Wilderness, and numerous other potentially magnificent works were left in various states of completion. This wasn't due to lack of skill or commitment, but rather his insatiable drive to explore new ideas and concepts. When a new scientific or artistic challenge captured his attention, Leonardo would often set aside current projects to pursue this fresh interest. His patrons frequently complained about his tendency to become distracted by new experiments or studies, leaving commissioned works unfinished for years or even decades. One of the most touching aspects of Leonardo's character was his deep empathy for living creatures. He adopted vegetarianism at a time when such a choice was practically unheard of in European society. His notebooks reveal his profound distress at the cruelty humans showed toward animals, writing, "King of the animals, as thou hast described them, I should rather say king of the beasts, thou being the greatest, because thou dost only help them, so that they give their children to be taken to the slaughter." His compassion manifested in peculiar yet endearing ways. He would regularly visit the markets of Florence and Milan to purchase caged birds, only to immediately set them free. This practice continued throughout his life, even when his finances were strained. His notebooks contain detailed sketches of birds in flight, suggesting these moments of liberation were also opportunities for scientific observation. One of Leonardo's most intriguing habits was his characteristic mirror writing from right to left in a script that could only be easily read when reflected in a mirror. While some historians have suggested this was a security measure to protect his ideas, others believe it may have been related to his left-handedness in an era when left-handed writing was discouraged or even punished. This unique writing style appears throughout his notebooks, containing thousands of pages of observations, sketches, and ideas. The mirror writing adds another layer of mystique to his already enigmatic character and has fascinated scholars for centuries. Leonardo's relationships with his patrons and the church were often strained and complicated. While he depended on wealthy patrons for his livelihood, he frequently tested their patience with his perfectionism and tendency to leave works unfinished. The Sforza family in Milan, the Medici in Florence, and even the King of France all experienced both the brilliance and the frustration of working with Leonardo. his relationship with the church was equally complex. While he created some of the most magnificent religious artwork ever produced, his scientific pursuits, particularly his anatomical studies, often put him at odds with religious authorities. His habit of dissecting human bodies, though crucial for his understanding of anatomy, had to be conducted in secret to avoid church censure. Leonardo's complex personality shaped both his greatest achievements and his apparent failures. His inability to complete projects that didn't continue to challenge his intellect might seem like a weakness, but it was this very quality that drove him to make groundbreaking discoveries in multiple fields. In today's world of specialization, Leonardo's multifaceted nature reminds us of the value of diverse interests and the power of crossing disciplinary boundaries. His internal struggles and personal quirks make him more relatable and human, showing that even history's greatest genius grappled with very human challenges. Renaissance Florence, a crucible of creativity. Step into the vibrant streets of 15th century Florence, where every corner tells a story of artistic and intellectual revolution. The city pulses with an energy that would help birth the Renaissance and shape the mind of young Leonardo. Narrow cobblestone streets wind like arteries through the city, their uneven surfaces worn smooth by centuries of footsteps. These labyrinthine pathways, barely wide enough for two people to walk side by side, create a maze of shadows and light, where merchants' awnings provide brief respite from the Tuscan sun. The air is thick with a symphony of scents. From the leather workshops comes the rich aroma of tanned hides, while spice merchant stalls release exotic fragrances of pepper, cinnamon, and cloves from distant lands. The pungent smell of pigments and oils wafts from numerous artists' workshops, mixing with the sweet scent of fresh bread from local bakeries. The soundtrack of Florentine life is a constant melody. Church bells from the Duomo and countless other churches mark the hours, their resonant tones echoing off stone walls. Market vendors call out their wares in musical Tuscan dialect, while the rhythmic sound of hammers and chisels emerges from sculptors' studios. In the distance, the gentle splash of the Arno River provides a constant backdrop. Within the city's countless workshops, apprentices bend over their work, grinding minerals into pigments, mixing eggs and oils for tempera, and learning the secrets of their craft. These bottega are more than mere workshops. They are schools, laboratories, and social centers where artists exchange ideas and techniques. In the Medici Gardens, philosophical debates flourish under the patronage of Lorenzo the Magnificent. Here, scholars discuss Plato and Aristotle, poets recite their latest works, and artists sketch ancient sculptures. These gardens serve as an outdoor academy where the revolutionary ideas of humanism take root and flourish. Travel north to Milan, and you'll find a different world entirely. The Sforza dynasty rules from their imposing castle, a fortress palace that symbolizes both military might and cultural sophistication. Under Ludovico Sforza's rule, the castle undergoes continuous expansion and embellishment, becoming one of Europe's largest citadels. The city is a hive of engineering activity. New canals are being carved through the Lombard Plain, their construction supervised by engineers who blend Roman hydraulic knowledge with innovative techniques. These navigli not only irrigate the fertile countryside, but also facilitate the transportation of marble for the cathedral's construction and goods for Milan's prosperous markets. Yet beneath this prosperity lurks a darker reality. The Black Death still makes periodic appearances, sending waves of fear through the population. The city's narrow streets and crowded quarters become potential breeding grounds for disease, while physicians in bird-like plague masks move among the sick. In stark contrast to this grim aspect, the Sforza court hosts spectacular festivities that would be remembered for centuries. Elaborate pageants, theatrical performances, and sumptuous banquets showcase Milan's wealth and cultural sophistication. Leonardo himself often designs these entertainments, creating mechanical marvels and theatrical effects that leave audiences spellbound. Political tensions simmer constantly. Milan's position makes it a key player in the complex chess game of Italian politics. Alliances shift like quicksand as the various Italian states, Florence, Venice, Rome, Naples, maneuver for advantage. The threat of French invasion looms on the horizon, while Ottoman expansion in the east adds another layer of uncertainty. The Sforza castle becomes a center of intellectual and artistic activity to rival Florence. In its chambers, Leonardo works on various projects: engineering designs for the Duke, anatomical studies in secret rooms, and the massive undertaking of the Last Supper in the refectory of Santa Maria del Grazie. This was the world that shaped and was shaped by Leonardo da Vinci, a world of stark contrasts where artistic beauty coexisted with brutal politics, where scientific innovation went hand in hand with superstition, and where the medieval world was slowly giving way to modern times. Imagine yourself walking these streets, breathing these scents, hearing these sounds. For it was in this rich tapestry of Renaissance life that one of history's greatest minds found the inspiration and opportunity to flourish. These cities were more than mere backdrops. They were active participants in the creation of genius. Leonardo's journey to greatness began in Verrocchio's workshop, where his extraordinary talent quickly became evident. The bustling bottega was Florence's premier artistic establishment, producing everything from delicate jewelry to massive bronze sculptures. Here, young Leonardo didn't just learn to paint. He revolutionized the very process of artistic creation. His first documented work, The Angel in Verrocchio's Baptism of Christ, showcased a mastery of light and shadow that surpassed his teacher's abilities. The story goes that Verrocchio, upon seeing Leonardo's contribution, vowed never to paint again, though he continued to sculpt and teach. However, Leonardo's early career faced a serious challenge in 1476, when he and several others were anonymously accused of sodomy, a crime punishable by death in Renaissance Florence. While the charges were eventually dismissed due to lack of evidence, this experience likely influenced his intensely private nature and may have contributed to his decision to leave Florence for Milan. Despite this setback, Leonardo's reputation continued to grow. His association with the powerful Medici family, particularly Lorenzo the Magnificent, provided crucial patronage and protection. The Medici's intellectual circle exposed him to the leading minds of the age, from philosophers to mathematicians, shaping his interdisciplinary approach to understanding the world. Leonardo's arrival in Milan was preceded by perhaps history's most ambitious job application. His letter to Ludovico Sforza outlined his capabilities not as an artist, but primarily as a military engineer. He promised to create portable bridges, advanced weaponry, and armored vehicles, many of which were centuries ahead of their time. Only in a postscript did he mention his artistic abilities. Under Sforza's patronage, Leonardo entered his most productive period. His workshop became a laboratory of innovation, where he conducted groundbreaking studies in anatomy, botany, geology, optics, and engineering. His notebooks from this period reveal the workings of a mind centuries ahead of its time. Detailed studies of human anatomy, designs for flying machines, and observations about natural phenomena that wouldn't be fully understood until the modern era. The creation of the Last Supper in the refectory of Santa Maria del Grazie marked both a triumph and a tragedy. Leonardo's experimental technique, using oil-based paints on dry plaster instead of traditional fresco, allowed him to achieve unprecedented levels of detail and emotional expression. However, this innovation proved disastrous for the painting's preservation, as it began deteriorating even within his lifetime. The Mona Lisa, perhaps his most famous work, occupied Leonardo for years. He carried the unfinished painting with him from Italy to France, continuously refining it until his death. The revolutionary technique of sfumato, the subtle gradation of tone, created the enigmatic smile that has captivated viewers for centuries. Leonardo's final years were spent in France, where King Francis I provided him with the Château du Clos-Luce near Amboise. The king, who deeply admired Leonardo, gave him complete freedom to pursue his studies while providing a generous pension. According to romantic legend, Leonardo died in the king's arms in 1519, though historical records suggest a more modest end. These final years were less about creating new works and more about organizing and reflecting on his lifetime of research. He continued to fill his notebooks with observations and ideas, even as his right hand became partially paralyzed, forcing him to rely more on his assistants. Throughout his life, Leonardo defied classification. He was an artist who thought like a scientist, an engineer who dreamed like a poet, and a theorist who worked like a craftsman. His greatest legacy may not be any single work of art or scientific discovery, but rather his demonstration of the unlimited potential of the human mind. What makes Leonardo's story particularly relevant today is how he unified disciplines that we now tend to separate. In an age of increasing specialization, his life reminds us of the value of viewing knowledge as an interconnected whole rather than isolated fragments. Leonardo's artistic innovations revolutionized painting and influenced generations of artists. His most significant contribution was the development of sfumato, a technique that creates an extraordinarily subtle gradation between colors and tones. This technique allowed him to eliminate harsh lines and create the ethereal quality seen in works like the Mona Lisa. The term comes from the Italian word fumo, smoke, describing the smoky, mysterious quality it produces. His anatomical studies transformed the way artists depicted the human form. Through countless dissections and detailed drawings, he understood not just how muscles looked on the surface, but how they functioned beneath the skin. This knowledge allowed him to create figures with unprecedented anatomical accuracy and natural poses, as seen in his studies for the Battle of Anghiari. Leonardo pioneered aerial perspective in landscape painting, understanding how atmosphere affects the appearance of distant objects. He observed that distant objects appear bluer and less distinct, a phenomenon he meticulously documented and incorporated into his paintings. This technique is particularly evident in the background of the Mona Lisa and the Virgin of the Rocks. His portraiture broke new ground by capturing psychological depth. Rather than simply recording a subject's appearance, Leonardo sought to convey their inner emotional state. The Mona Lisa's famous smile is the quintessential example, a complex expression that seems to change depending on the viewer's perspective. Leonardo's scientific work was centuries ahead of its time. His anatomical studies, conducted through systematic dissection of human corpses, produced findings that wouldn't be rediscovered until the 19th century. He was the first to correctly depict the human spine, and his drawings of the uterus with fetus are remarkably accurate. His understanding of the heart's function was revolutionary. He identified 4 chambers when most contemporaries thought there were 2, and he was the first to accurately depict heart valves. He even discovered how these valves worked by making glass models and pumping water through them with grass seeds to observe flow patterns. In embryology, Leonardo made detailed observations of fetal development, correctly depicting the fetus's position in the womb and understanding the function of the umbilical cord. He also made noteworthy observations about human proportion and growth. His botanical studies combined scientific accuracy with artistic beauty. He was one of the first to observe and document phyllotaxis, the arrangement of leaves on a stem, and his geological observations led him to correctly conclude that fossils were the remains of ancient life forms. Leonardo's engineering designs were astoundingly ahead of their time. His flying machines, while never built during his lifetime, demonstrated remarkable insight into aerodynamics. His ornithopter design, inspired by bird flight, included sophisticated mechanisms for wing articulation. He also designed the first parachute and aerial screw, a precursor to the helicopter. His tank design, created for military purposes, anticipated features of modern armored vehicles by centuries. The design included angled armor to deflect projectiles, multiple gun ports, and an internal propulsion system operated by crews of soldiers. Leonardo's hydraulic engineering was particularly impressive. He designed complex systems of locks, canals, and water wheels. His understanding of fluid dynamics led to innovations in irrigation and water management that were actually implemented during his lifetime, particularly in Milan. His mechanical automata were extraordinary for their time. He designed a mechanical knight that could sit up, move its arms, and open and close its jaw, essentially creating one of the world's first robots. He also designed a mechanical lion for the King of France that could walk and open its chest to reveal lilies. What made Leonardo's contributions particularly significant was his ability to bridge theoretical understanding with practical application. In painting, he developed new types of primers and varnishes. In architecture, he designed innovative support structures and foundations. In engineering, he improved existing tools and invented new ones. In anatomy, he created better surgical instruments and procedures. Leonardo's innovations continue to influence modern fields. His anatomical drawings are still used in medical education. His engineering principles inform modern mechanical design. His artistic techniques remain fundamental to painting instruction. His observational methods exemplify the scientific approach. His work reminds us that the boundaries between disciplines are often artificial, and that the greatest breakthroughs can come from combining insights from different fields. In an age of increasing specialization, Leonardo's integrated approach to knowledge and creativity remains more relevant than ever. Leonardo's approach to scientific investigation, grounded in meticulous observation and detailed documentation, established the foundation for modern scientific methodology. His practice of combining intricate sketches with written observations created a blueprint for scientific documentation that remains essential today. For example, his anatomical drawings showcase remarkable precision through multiple perspectives, providing an unparalleled level of detail. His botanical studies systematically document growth patterns, offering insights still valued by modern botanists. Similarly, his geological observations include detailed cross-sections and analyses of stratification, while his studies of water flow anticipate contemporary fluid dynamics visualization techniques. Leonardo's seamless integration of art and science continues to shape modern fields. In medical illustration, his methods influence surgical planning, anatomical education materials, medical visualization software, and the 3D modeling of biological systems. In scientific visualization, his legacy is evident in the representation of complex data, weather pattern modeling, molecular structure visualization, and even astronomical mapping. His meticulous research documentation methods have informed practices such as laboratory notebooks, technical drawings, research publications, and educational materials. Leonardo's exploration of nature as a source of inspiration for design remains a cornerstone of biomimicry. His studies of bird flight mechanics inform modern aircraft design, while robotics draws from his insights into human and animal movement. Architectural principles derived from natural structures and sustainable design solutions rooted in natural systems also trace their origins to his observations. Leonardo's contributions to technological applications are profound. His studies of flying machines influence aeronautical engineering, particularly in wing design, aircraft stability, vertical flight mechanisms, and airflow visualization. These observations have practical applications in drone technology, wind turbine design, aircraft wing optimization, and glider development. In robotics and automation, his designs inform both humanoid robotics, emphasizing joint mechanics, balance systems, and natural movement replication, and industrial automation, influencing assembly line processes, material handling systems, and quality control mechanisms. Leonardo's understanding of hydraulic systems continues to shape modern water management. His principles are applied in urban water infrastructure, industrial fluid control, and irrigation technologies. His fluid dynamics studies inform pipeline design, pump systems, water treatment facilities, and marine engineering. Similarly, his military innovations inspire modern defensive systems like armor and fortifications, as well as offensive technologies, including tactical equipment and combat engineering. Leonardo's impact extends deeply into contemporary education and research. His methods support STEAM education by fostering cross-disciplinary learning, visual thinking strategies, and project-based methodologies. His holistic approach to research promotes interdisciplinary collaboration, visual documentation, experimental design, and innovative problem-solving strategies. In innovation and design, Leonardo's legacy is reflected in design thinking, emphasizing user-centered approaches, iterative prototyping, integrated solutions, and environmental considerations. His creative problem-solving methodologies, rooted in systems thinking and multiple perspective analysis, continue to inspire innovation. Environmental applications of his observational methods are evident in ecosystem analysis, climate modeling, environmental protection strategies, and sustainable design practices. Looking to the future, Leonardo's influence expands into emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, virtual reality, sustainable technology, and bioengineering. His research methodologies, emphasizing cross-disciplinary approaches, visual data analysis, experimental design, and robust documentation, remain critical. Modern innovators are reminded of his greatest legacy, the ability to transcend boundaries between disciplines. Leonardo's approach underscores the integration of diverse fields of knowledge, balancing observation with experimentation, blending analytical with creative thinking, and addressing both intricate details and the broader context. His influence extends beyond specific inventions or discoveries to a way of thinking about and approaching problems that remains remarkably relevant in our modern world. As technology advances and new challenges emerge, Leonardo's integrated approach to knowledge and innovation continues to offer valuable insights and inspiration. The enduring relevance of his work shows that true innovation often comes not from specialization alone, but from the ability to connect and synthesize ideas across different fields, a lesson particularly valuable in our increasingly complex and interconnected world. As we reflect on Leonardo da Vinci's extraordinary legacy, we find ourselves contemplating a mind that transcended not only his own time, but continues to challenge our understanding of human potential. His story offers profound insights that resonate powerfully in our contemporary world. The Renaissance ideal of universal curiosity that Leonardo embodied speaks directly to our modern challenges. In an age where we face complex global issues like climate change, artificial intelligence ethics, and sustainable development, Leonardo's integrated approach to knowledge becomes increasingly relevant. His ability to see connections between seemingly unrelated fields, art and anatomy, engineering and natural phenomena, mathematics and music, provides a blueprint for the kind of interdisciplinary thinking our world desperately needs. Leonardo's deep respect for nature as the supreme teacher finds new significance in our current environmental discussions. His careful observations of natural phenomena and his attempts to understand and replicate nature's mechanisms presaged modern concepts like biomimicry and sustainable design. In his notebooks, we find detailed studies of bird flight, water flow patterns, and plant growth that continue to inspire engineers and scientists today. Perhaps most importantly, Leonardo's approach to learning offers a powerful antidote to our modern tendency toward narrow specialization. His insatiable curiosity and willingness to question established wisdom remind us that true innovation often occurs at the intersection of different disciplines. As he wrote, "Learning never exhausts the mind," a sentiment that encourages lifelong learning and intellectual exploration. The story behind Leonardo's work is equally fascinating. Many of his projects remained unknown until the 19th century, hidden away in private collections or forgotten in archives. His famous mirror writing, once thought to be a simple security measure, is now understood as a reflection of his complex personality and possibly his left-handedness. The recent purchase of his Codex Leicester by Bill Gates for $30.8 million in 1994 demonstrates the enduring value of his insights. Modern research has offered new perspectives on Leonardo's personality and working methods. Some scholars suggest he may have had ADHD, viewing his notorious difficulty in completing projects not as a flaw, but as a manifestation of his racing mind and diverse interests. This reframing offers comfort and inspiration to those who don't fit conventional molds of productivity and focus. The fact that only 15 of his paintings have survived to the present day makes them all the more precious. Yet perhaps this scarcity is fitting. Leonardo's true legacy lies not in the quantity of his completed works, but in the quality of his thinking and the breadth of his vision. In our current age of rapid technological advancement and increasing specialization, Leonardo's example becomes more relevant than ever. He shows us that true innovation comes not from narrow expertise alone, but from a broader understanding of how different fields of knowledge interconnect. His integration of art and science, his emphasis on careful observation, and his ability to think across disciplines offer valuable lessons for addressing today's complex challenges. As we face the uncertainties of our own time, Leonardo's fearless curiosity and innovative spirit continue to inspire. His legacy teaches us that the greatest achievements come not from following established paths, but from daring to question, explore, and imagine new possibilities. In a world that often seems to value quick results over deep understanding, Leonardo reminds us that true genius lies in the patient observation of nature, the courageous questioning of accepted wisdom, and the relentless pursuit of knowledge in all its forms. Let us carry forward Leonardo's spirit of universal curiosity and interdisciplinary thinking. In doing so, we might just find the solutions to our most pressing contemporary challenges, just as he found answers to the questions that puzzled his own age. For as Leonardo himself might have observed, the future belongs not to those who simply know, but to those who never stop learning.